we'll get going. All right, Jake, are we good?
Yeah, I think we're good.
Cool.
There's a couple acronyms in here. Just for our information.
I mean, like, can you see my screen?
Oh, not yet. It just says started screen sharing.
Oh. Screen sharing is paused. Can you now?
There we go.
All right, so today's topic is runner's lane interference. A few rules and expectations for today. Out of respect for everybody's time and learning experience, please leave your microphone on mute until you're ready to ask a question. And questions can be either asked audibly, or if you want to throw those in the chat section, we'll monitor that and address those as needed. If you have additional comments or additions to the topic that we're covering, please place those in the comments as opposed to jumping on, simply because I want to limit it to 45 minutes because I know we're all on lunch breaks. If my email's on there, I know most of you have it at some point or have access to it, but if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I'm more than happy to talk baseball. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cover 3 different rule sets today: National Federation of High Schools, NCAA, and OBR, or official baseball rules. So NFHS under Rule 841G, the batter runner is out when he runs outside the 3-foot running lane, which is marked by the last half of the distance from home plate to first base, while the ball is being fielded or thrown to first base. This infraction is ignored if it is to avoid a fielder who is attempting to field the batted ball, or if the act does not interfere with the fielder or a throw. They are considered out of the running lane lines if either foot is outside of either lane line. So the lines are included as part of the lane. That's rule set number 1, which we'll use, most of us will use all spring. The NCAA rule, pretty much the exact same. In running the last half of the distance from home plate to first base while the ball is being fielded to first base, the batter runner runs outside of the 3-foot restraining line or inside the foul line, and in doing so, interferes with the fielder taking the throw at first base, except that the batter runner may go outside of these lines to avoid a fielder attempting to field a batted ball. Okay, so that's NCAA for those of us who work that, or that rule may be in play there. And the official baseball rules, which include amateur baseball in South Dakota, American Legion baseball, says that a batter is out for interference when, in running the last half the distance from home base to first base, while the ball is being fielded to first base, he runs outside to the right of, or inside to the left of, the batter's lane, and in the umpire's judgment, interferes with the fielder taking the throw at first base, in which case the ball is dead. In all 3 rule sets, as long as a batter runner is running legally inside the running lane, they may exit the running lane in their last stride or step to touch the base, because the base is most of the base is outside of the running lane, right? So in order to hit the base, we can leave in our last step, slide, dive, stride, reach, to go touch first base. So those are our 3 definitions. I'm going to see here. Just a second here. There we go. All right, so we're going to start a quick poll. There's three polls we're going to do first, just to kind of see where everybody's at as far as knowledge, and that way we can kind of tailor what we talk about to the specific questions or things that we need. So the first poll is now up. So we're still waiting on 4 more people. All right, so share the results here. 8 of us voted. 6 of us say the batter runner is out and all runners return to the last occupied base. 2 of us say that the batter is out and all other plays stand. So the answer to this one is the batter runner is out and all other runners return to the last occupied base. So if the runner's stealing on the pitch, if there's our runner on first steals on the pitch, we're going to send him back to first. And we'll talk about towards the end how to do that. But we're going to return all the runners to the last base occupied at time of pitch. Okay. Thought there's another pool, maybe not. All right, here we go. Figure out how to get there. So this is the second poll question. And we're waiting on one last person. Okay, we're pretty much 50-50 on this. Does anybody that voted false want to explain why they think that's false? All right. The answer to this one is true. Must have both feet inside the runner's lane. The lines are included in the runner's lane until their last step, which then they may vacate the runner's lane to touch the base. All right, and the last question should be up now. Which umpire can call a runner's lane interference? RLI stands for runner's lane interference, and you'll see that abbreviation throughout some of the slides. All right, everybody answer this one. So while this play is predominantly going to be called by the plate umpire, the base umpire can also rule on this with no runners on in a two-person system. And we've actually got one play where I'm going to talk extensively about it because there's certain situations where the plate umpire is not going to have any idea. It's not going to have the chance to look at that or to acknowledge that. So let's talk about when the base umpire would have this call, but predominantly it's going to come from the plate umpire. So one of the big things that we hear a lot on this play is it has to be a quality throw or a true throw. There are multiple interpretations on this. The more valued or more commonly believed call or interpretation is the Wendelstedt interpretation. Hunter and Harry Wendelstedt, who run one of the two pro schools, or Hunter runs it now. Harry, his father, worked in the majors for a long time. But their interpretation of it, and the most widely accepted interpretation, is that the determination is not whether the throw is true, but whether it could still reasonably retire the runner. So think about that. Could the throw still reasonably retire the runner? And that should be our predominating factor for the majority of the levels we work. Now, keep in mind that depending on what level you're working, what is a throw that could still reasonably retire the runner is going to change. I'm not going to hold the same threshold for an amateur or Legion or NCAA game that I'm going to hold for a 1200 baseball game, because those throws are completely different and the athletes are at different skill levels. So we need to match our judgment on that to the level we're currently working.
I guess just the what I use is I look at kind of the interpretation that, or the comment with an infield fly rule. You know, is it something that a player of average skill level at that level could reasonably retire the runner with that throw?
Cool. All right. So what's the penalty for runner's lane interference? At all levels, the batter runner is ruled out, or B/R, and all other runners are returned to the base occupied at time of pitch. So regardless of what happens during that play, if we have runner's lane interference, we're going to call time, rule the batter out, and make all the runners go back to their last occupied base. Fairly simple there. So when is this type of play going to happen? While the rule states that it's anytime a throw is being fielded to first base, so anytime there is a potential put out at first base, you're predominantly going to see this become an issue when the ball is fielded in the plate area to the mound. So the area of the plate. So think if you draw lines from the front edges of the mound directly to the foul lines, that area is predominantly that's where the ball probably is going to be when you have a chance for this to happen, and a chance more likely to be called. Okay. Bunts, slow choppers that don't really go anywhere, and then drop third strikes are all potentials where we're going to have a play fielded to first base. So if you think of the slow chopper up the line, slow chopper back to the pitcher, a bunt where the catcher gets out in front and fields it, third baseman charges it and fields it. It doesn't matter who's throwing it. It matters where the throw is coming from and going to. But like I said, 99% of the time, the calls come on bunts and drop third strikes. So let's get into a real quick talk about mechanics. Does anybody have any questions before we get to this point? Is there anything in the chat?
Nothing in the chat, but yeah, if there's any questions ever at all, just feel free to unmute yourself, and trying to get back to ask questions. There's not a stupid question, because if somebody's got that question, it could somebody else could potentially have that question, and you don't want to not ask a question here where there's a collective of baseball knowledge and have it backfire on the field. Looks like we got one. The talking about quality throw with NFHS.
Yep.
If I remember correctly, the NFHS does not have that mandatory requirement for a quality throw.
Correct.
And
so at the NFHS level, there's going to be you have to use a little bit of common sense and judgment. Did the act affect the fielder's ability to receive the throw? Now, if the catcher gets up and airmails at 40 feet over the first baseman's head and had a reasonable opportunity to make a decent throw to first base, am I going to call that? Probably not. If it's anywhere near where the fielder could have fielded it, I'm going to call it. But if the throw is so bad that the fielder has no chance at reasonably retiring the runner, I'm probably not going to call that. By philosophy, because as umpires, we don't want to grab the shitty end of the stick. Make the throw be somewhat near the base. and make it to where the first baseman at least has a chance to catch the ball. Now, if we get into a situation where the catcher, pitcher, third baseman has no opportunity to throw it and has to airmail it, obviously, if it's something where without him there, without the runner there, we could have made a decent throw, call it. But don't feel like you have to call it if if it doesn't have any impact on the play. Those are the ones we want to get. We want to get the clear, obvious ones that have an impact on the play. So quality throw may not come into play exactly verbatim, but you also have to make sure we're not going out and grabbing the shitty end of the stick and proving how good of a rule book umpire we are.
Don't reward the defense for bad baseball.
Cool. Any other questions? All right. So, mechanics on this play. Like I said, it's predominantly the plate umpire's call, so the plate umpire has to be active. And that's one thing that I stress in my region for South Dakota baseball is being more active as a plate umpire. We have to move to get into position to see plays. Obviously, angle over distance, but we still have to gain distance towards the play. We can't. The days of hanging out behind home plate aren't here anymore. We have to get out in front of the plate. We have to move. We have to prove that we are in position to rule on plays. And to be 100% honest with you, the more you move, the more movement you get out of your plate umpire, the less you hear out of coaches and players because you're working. You may not you're not going to get every call right, but they'll at least appreciate the fact that you are trying to get in the best position possible to officiate that play. So on runner's lane interference, after ruling fair or foul on a ground ball, drop third strike, obviously we don't have that on drop third strike, but a batted ball, we have fair foul ball. We have to make a fair foul call, get in position to make that call, because without that, it doesn't matter what happens at first base, right? Once we do that, we need to move up the first baseline and be straddling the line in order to rule on this. It's really important as a plate umpire that we do this for not only runner's lane interference, but pulled foot, swipe tag, interference by the batter runner. Like you look at like the A-Rod play at first base 6 or 7 years ago where he swats the baseball out of the first baseman's glove on the tag. Obstruction, because that's also a potential call that we may have, and then also runner's lane interference. My goal when I work the plate is on every ground ball, I am going to try to get at least 30 feet up the line, at least a third of the way to first base before I get set. The most important thing here is to gain ground towards first base and be set at the time of the throw. Not the time of the receiving, but the time of the throw. Every game, for the first 3 innings of the game, my focus as a plate umpire is to count how many illegal runners I have. So how many runners are not in the runner's lane? Because I want to make sure that I'm focusing on that, because if I can do it for the first 3 innings, odds are I'm going to catch it when it happens in the 6th and he's not legal. And I can tell the coach, hey, the first 3 innings, you had 1 batter run legally to first base. So you're telling me that you think out of all the batter runners you've had, that this one was actually legal? And I have a little bit more of an argument. I have a little bit more of a knowledge base and can sell that call if I need to. Just because they run illegally does not mean they are guilty of runner's lane interference. But if we focus on counting the runners that are illegal, we develop a habit, and that's what we want to have here.
One thing to add on the mechanics side of it, what I was always taught to do is straddle the fair foul line, as opposed to being in foul territory or in fair territory. If you're as close to first base as you can and you're set at the time of the throw, straddling the foul line, it's pretty hard to have a coach come out and argue that you were out of position.
Any questions on this part? I think it's all pretty basic, all stuff that we should be doing anyways. Even if we're not, even if we never knew what runner's line interference was, this is umpiring 101. All right, get up the line, get in position. So we have different mechanics with runners on versus no runners on. With no runners on in a two-person system, the base umpire is going to work a little differently. With runners on, obviously the base umpire is not going to be really any help. All he can really say is, hey, that throw was fielded to first base. That's about all the help they're going to have there. With no runners on, as the base umpire, I'm not going to be in the baseline between first and second. In the older days, first baseman stretched on these types of plays towards home plate, and you wanted to be that 90-degree angle between the plate and first base because they're going to stretch and you have to be ready for a pulled foot that way. First baseman now no longer stretch towards home plate on 99% of plays. Most of the time they're going to be parallel to first base with their left foot touching the base and fielding it in that cutout towards second base. So they're going to be standing in the first to second base line. So as a base umpire, I'm going to probably take one or two steps into fair territory and gain a little bit of ground on the first baseman, depending on where my starting position is at. Because now I can help with that play as the base umpire, because I don't have to worry about the fielder fielding the ball because it's happening right in front of the plate umpire. I'm probably not going to have fair foul unless that's a hard bunt or a hard chopper, which in that case probably isn't going to be an RLI play anyways. But I can assist. And the two times I've called runners lane interference as a base umpire, it's because we have a chopper up the first baseline. So our plate umpire has fair foul, interference versus obstruction by the batter, runner, and catcher who's trailing the play. So they have three things to rule on right away. They're not even looking at where the runner is. They're looking at the ball, looking at the fielder in relation to the runner, and making sure that the ball doesn't hit the runner, because then we have an issue. Making sure that they protect one of the fielders that's making the play from being interfered with. And I, as the base umpire, have to pick up where that runner is, if they're legal or illegal. Because that throw coming in is, I'm going to be the one that has an opinion on that play as to where they were at. So either one can call it. Whoever's in the best position to see the play, whoever has the best opportunity to make that and has definite knowledge of where the runner was and did it interfere with the fielder's ability to field the throw. Not the thrower's ability to throw the ball, the fielder's ability to field the throw.
This is one of those things that it's definitely a good idea. The play that you're outlining here, where we have a chopper up the first base line, this is definitely something to look at, discuss with your partner in a pregame. I mean, that's fair foul is already being discussed in most pregames, or it should be. But adding the discussion about a play similar like this, where you have multiple fielders converging on a runner, you got to figure out who you're protecting, and then you also add in a fair foul situation for the plate umpire. That's something that really should be pre-gamed for each crew.
So the key to this here is to let the play finish. Let the initial play finish. So if they throw it and they catch it and the batter runner's out, did the batter runner running illegally interfere with the fielder's ability to catch the ball? No. So we don't have anything. We're going to ignore the runner running illegally because he didn't interfere. If we have interference, we're going to yell and point, that's interference, time, point to the batter runner, you're out, right? Point to whatever runner, you back to first, you back to second, you back to third, whatever the case may be. Okay. We want to do this before we do anything else. So we want to call the interference, rule the batter out and show everybody, and then return the runners to their bases before that coach gets to us. Because if we don't do that, we get flustered talking to the coach and explaining this rule. And then he finally accepts it and moves on. And we leave a runner at third because we forgot he wasn't supposed to be there because he was stealing on the pitch. So take care of all your business. You will have time because that their base coach is going to take a couple minutes to get to you. But make sure you take care of all your duties and your partner can assist with this. So as the base umpire, if you're not calling this, know where your runners were at pre-pitch. Because we have responsibility to help return runners. And while the coach is getting his explanation, we can kind of help expedite this process, right? And once we do that, then we can go back in and help corral the coach if necessary. So if I'm the base umpire here and my plate umpire calls it, I'm going to help return runners if necessary, or help with the first base coach if there's no runners on, and make sure he stays where he's supposed to, he or she stays where they're supposed to. And then I'm going to be in the vicinity of the plate umpire and the head coach, because I need to do my job as a partner, to be a good partner, and help in that discussion should it become an argument. And that's something that we always pregame. Sometimes it may be a signal that I give. Maybe, I may turn my collar up or something. I may take my hat off. It all depends on who I work with. And if you work with somebody long enough, when they're getting to their boiling point, and you can step in as a base umpire or the partner and just say, okay, coach, you got your explanation. We're moving on. And walk them back to their box or to their dugout. And have the discussion as you're walking them back to their original position. So when you're done, you say, okay, I hear you. That's what I've got. Turn around, jog back to the plate. They're already in their box. You're leaving to go umpire. And we can talk for hours on verbiage. We can talk for hours on handling situations. And that right there of walking them back to their position, telling them, yep, I hear you. That's the way it is. That's the way the rule says it. In my judgment, this is what I had. Discussion's over. We're playing baseball. And you jog back to the plate or you jog back to your position. Now everybody knows if they decide to continue that discussion, what's going to happen. Because you've ended it and you're going back to do your job and you left him at his position to do his job. When we explain this to coaches, there are two really key phrases that we want to use. By rule, your runner was outside of the running lane, or by rule, your runner was not in the running lane. And in my judgment, he interfered with the throw that was fielded to first base. Right? Rule book terminology. If you use that, there's not really a whole lot they can argue. And when they question it, say, by rule, your runner must be in the lane the entirety of the lane until his last step. Your runner was not, in my judgment, your runner was not in the lane the entire way to first. And his actions interfere with the throw being fielded to first base. There's not a whole lot they can really say to that. They can say, well, I think he was in the lane. Coach, I worked hard to get into position on this play. I had a really good look at it. And they might say, okay, yeah, you did. They might argue. But the moment you've given an explanation and you've explained what you had, you can end the conversation right there. Anything on that topic, Jake, of dealing with a coach?
Not that's relevant to this discussion. I mean, the use of "in my judgment" is a phenomenal phrase to use because by rule, I mean, you can't argue judgment calls.
By rule.
Yep. Literally by rule, you cannot argue judgment calls. So I like throwing that in there because that's just an added, I don't want to say bonus, but it's an added backup, I guess, as far as, you know, if a coach decides that their conduct arises to a level which warrants their removal, it's just one more backup. I have reached out to a couple umpires out of Twin Cities. I got one guy who has a phenomenal handling situations presentation to see if he'd come and be willing to participate for one of these sessions. Even if that's not possible, I do hope to put on probably getting a little bit closer to the season, putting on a handling situations kind of 30,000 foot overview of handling situations.
Cool. Any questions from anybody on this mechanic wise?
And just a reminder, if you guys have questions but don't want to disrupt the flow of the presentation, if I'm speaking, Connor's likely monitoring the chat box. When Connor's speaking, I'm monitoring the chat box. So if you have questions, please don't hesitate to throw them up in the chat box or chime in. We want to get your questions answered.
All right, so as you can see here, we have this is how the plate umpire should work. Now we know this is a throw being fielded at first base. This isn't most likely when we're going to have it with throw to the shortstop. But as a plate umpire, we're going to get out, clear the catcher to the left, because we don't have fair foul responsibility on the third baseline. Then we're going to move up the first baseline. This shows the plate umpire getting to the start of the runner's line at their 45 foot mark. Don't feel like you have to bust your ass to get there. Get up the line, straddle the line, be set for the throw. And then turn your head on the release to see what happens. Really important that as a plate umpire, especially from what I've seen working in South Dakota, that we as plate umpires are active, get out in front of the plate, get up the line and in position to help on plays. So if you ever worked with me, I miss about 3 pulled foot plays a game, and I need all the help I can get.
It just one thing to kind of emphasize here is clearing the catcher to the left. Anytime the ball is put in play, there are 3 people moving within that dirt circle, or should be moving. The runner going to first, the catcher, if he's doing his job, is busting his tail, trying to get in front of the dugout to back that throw up, or as close as he can. And then the plate umpire should be moving up the line. Well, we know the batter runner is going to cut right across home plate. I mean, there's no reason for a batter runner to not do that. And it's illogical for a catcher to go to the left, go up towards, or make a movement towards third base. They're obviously going to go to where they need to go to back up the throw. So if you if you're working your way up the line, make sure you clear the left. Now this graphic, as far as, I mean, what I do is a little bit exaggerated. I'm not going to get up to the front corner of the right-handed batter's box. Typically what I'm going to do is I'll let the catcher get out of my way. I mean, I got to see where the ball is going. I got to see what responsibilities I have. I'm not moving on contact. I got to see what's going on. So by that point in time, usually I got about 5 feet of distance between the catcher and I, and distance between the batter and I. And then it's just a simple, I might take 2 steps to my left to get in line with the first baseline extended. That way, in case, it's a screaming liner at the shortstop, in this case, at least I'm on the first baseline where I should be, and then I can get stopped and get set in case it's a quick throw.
All right, plays. Get rid of this graphic here. All right, play number 1. So we have a bunt, right? We go back here real quick. So we have a bunt fielded in the plate area, right? Throw is going to first base. We're ruling fair foul here. And then we're going to turn our attention. This runner right now, 99% of the time, they're illegal until they get to here, which this area up to the 45-foot mark doesn't matter. The runner's lane doesn't start until it visibly starts on the field.
And just look at where the plate umpire was at that starting position. I mean, there was not the big sweep to clear the catcher. And I mean, he's already worked his way up to the third base line now to rule on that fair foul. And I'd bet good money that all you're going to see here is the plate umpire is going to take a step and a half to his right and straddle what would be the line if it was there to rule on any other issues there.
Okay. So our runners in the runner's lane or in that area of the runner's lane, the last 45 feet, and is running illegally. Gets hit with a throw. And you can hear timeout, 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 the plate umpire coming in on this play. And he gets ejected. Pretty easy call to make there, right? Running illegally, throw coming to first base, hits the batter runner. Runner's outside of the lane. Makes it really easy to call when that happens. Any questions on that play? If you have questions on the plays, jump in and ask. Otherwise, I'm just going to roll to the next one.
Says no interference. Well, let's see where he was running on that line there. Was he out of that 45-foot box down there? We'll take a look. If they're running on the inside part of that line and you hit him, he should be out. Now, I don't know if he was. Let's take a look. If he's inside it, he's good. He's on the line, he's good. He's good. He's all right. Now he's outside that line. Well, he's on. Let's see. That step was. He was inside the line, but then right at the end, he veered into the path of the throw.
This is a tight call because let's see if they give us a wider angle. So, sorry, guys.
He was inside the line, but then right at the end, he
Trying to get it to where we need to be here. So it's hard to tell in a freeze frame, but this is a tight call because the line's part of it. Just like the ball barely having to touch the line at all, touching his stride, touching the line at all puts him in the box. And it looks like when he gets hit that his right foot is right there on the line. So on this play, if I have nothing, when he gets hit as a plate umpire, I'm moving towards that. That's nothing. The reason I do this is because I'm ruling on the play that I have nothing on that play. I'm making the ruling that there is the determination that there is no interference. And I've already told the coach that I have no interference. then he can come out and say, hey, why is that not interference? And I can say, in my judgment, the stride when he got hit with the ball was on the line. By rule, the line is part of the running lane. Every stride before that was on the line. But therefore, by rule, he's in the running lane. No interference.
The signal that Connor's referring to, the safe sign and the vocal mechanic of saying that's nothing, is, in my opinion, one of the mechanics that is underused. There are several instances where the that's nothing mechanic with the safe signal would and should be used, and that is a perfect example of it. I don't anticipate doing a full clinic on something like that, but if there's questions on that, feel free to reach out. And then one thing to just kind of reemphasize here, I don't believe we had runners on in that first video, but we do have runners on, or no, we did have runners on, and we had a runner on third, actually, I think, in the first video. So the big thing here, and it's, the pros have the luxury here having four umpires, excuse me, and most of the time we're working with two. So, knowing what your pre-pitch, all right, hey, I got a runner starting out here on third. Okay, now we got runners lane interference. Okay, so now we're in a kill play, and making sure that we, don't allow that run to score, making sure they go back to the base that they occupied at the time of the pitch, and things of that nature. So it's important to remember that the ball's dead at the time of the infraction, and any and all runners are going back to the base that they occupied at the time of the pitch.
Cool. All right. On to the third and final video. This is the play that I'm talking about, that I was talking about that I've had. No runners on. Base umpire has the potential to rule on this, kind of like the first one. So the plate umpire has responsibility to make sure the batter runner doesn't kick this ball or touch it while running out of the box. Has to make sure that the ball is fair or foul. He's probably not going to pick up right away where that runner was. So as you can see, and I don't know that we don't have quite the view I want on this play. See if I can back it up to the moment where it fields and throws. So right now his foot's on the line. And then he veers in when he knows the throw is coming. That's a judgment call. It's about as tight of a judgment call as you can get. I think it's going to show it one more time here.
Hey, Connor, if you can stop it at where he steps out of the runner's lane. I want to show something mechanically here. Okay, right there. Perfect. Okay. So we got F2 fielding the ball. Now look at where Jerry Davis is at. He's off the line because all he has here is what we call asses and elbows. You can't see through a body. So he's getting to a spot where he can, as he's getting to the spot where he can make the call without, having his view obstruct. Now, if we let the play go through for another second, you're going to see the plate umpire continue into right there because he sees the pitcher coming through, and that's another player that's going to impede his view. So, Connor and I have talked about, the mechanics of, making sure we're on the line, but you can be on the line. That's great. But if you can't see the runner, you're completely out of position. And I mean, then you got more issues that are bound to happen. So make sure you're able to see what's going on with this play. Even if that means, taking what looks like 2 steps into the infield.
You got to be in position to roll in the play. There's no perfect position. Obviously, being on the line lends a lot of credibility. But on this play, we have to get to where we're not obstructed on our view. Any questions on this play? Any questions on runner's line interference in general? All right. So,
hey, Connor, you want to go back to that one slide quick? I just had one more thing. So we were talking about how this could be a potential situation where in a 2 umpire system, the base umpire would be ruling here. If you want to stop, you want to back that up here. I want forget who that is, right? Okay, stop it right there. Okay, so Major League Baseball has replay. We don't. Okay, and this is a, and I know exactly what Connor's drawn on here, and thank you. So the like I was saying, we don't have the luxury of having replay here. Okay. And so this is a situation where, as we alluded to earlier, the F3 is not stretching towards home plate. And from in a 4 umpire system, we're not going to talk about the positioning of this base umpire. From a 2 umpire system where Connor's got the B in the box, that's really where the base umpire should be on this for a couple reasons. One, you're not getting much of a better look moving to where that base umpire is at, especially in a 2-man. But the big reason is you're close enough that you can get a look at that runner's lane, because from the position that this umpire, the U1 in this situation is in, he might be able to say that, yes, the batter runner was in the runner's lane and running legally. And that's a maybe. If he's over in the box area where, he's 2 or 3 steps off the fair foul line, and now he's looking up the line, he's got a lot better of an argument if he, as the base umpire, comes up and says time, that's runner's lane interference.
He can also help his partner.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing I'll say is on this play, as a base umpire, be ready to move. Because if that throw is errant or the first baseman can't see it coming, you need to be in a position to where you can see it coming. So you can move out of the way when he ducks so you don't wear it in the face. All right. So to wrap up this presentation, the purpose of these clinics is just to get us ready to umpire baseball, to make us better umpires. I'm not the end-all be-all of umpire philosophy or rules knowledge. Teaching or operating these, leading these, forces me to get into the book and understand rules better, and helps me explain them better when I get questioned on them, which is really important to me. Obviously, we all work at a variety of different levels. Philosophies are different from level to level on certain things. but I want to give you the best opportunity to succeed, and also force me to open up my rule book in the off season and prepare myself so when I step on the field on day one, I'm ready to go. So that's why I'm leading it, not because I'm the smartest umpire in the state, not because I'm the best, not because I know the most. It's to make me a better umpire, because I get to be able to explain it to you all on as thoroughly as I can, and try to make it as simple as I can, because as we all know, we need to simplify things for coaches because they don't read the rule book. Most of them don't. But the simpler we can explain it, the less likely there is for a powder keg situation where we have to end up running a coach because we applied a rule, but we couldn't explain why we were right. So that's why I do it. Jake can talk about why he does it if you ask him. But, I think we're looking at a weekly or at least bi-weekly leading up to the start of the season here, the high school season here in March. I sent out a survey to all the umpires in the state of South Dakota, basically said, hey, send us topics, sign up if you're interested in. That way we can cover things that are important to you, things you want to know more about, because the only reason that we put these on or are able to put these on is because people are interested in hearing on different topics. So if you have other topics you want to hear about, shoot me an email, shoot me a text. For those of you that have my cell phone number, we'll try to put something together. I know Jake has one next week that I think he's talking about. What are you covering next week, Jake?
We're going to talk about appeals. So anything from live ball appeals, dead ball appeals, and proper check swing mechanics. And, really talking about appeals from a procedural standpoint. It's one of the few rules in the rule book that is very procedural. And more often than not, I see in my own experience, I see a situation where a team goes and engages in proper dead ball appeal procedure when it's not necessary by rule. And I've kind of outlined the presentation that I'm going to give, and we'll also probably discuss what a play versus an attempted play is, which is going to be good because I think at some point in time we'll have just a Mod Podge session where we'll just kind of try to cover a couple really small topics, and player attempted play is going to really come into play when we start talking about things like base awards. And so getting some foundational knowledge on a player attempted play, and it's very timely because actually the NCAA just modified the play attempted play rule. So some good stuff there. I will put my contact information in the chat window as well if there's other stuff that you all want to hear about. We certainly want to hear it. We want to make these as tailored to you as possible. We're working on putting together a presentation on the two umpire system, and the positioning and rotations of it, not as much the quote unquote calling in a two-man, but if you got a runner on first and third, what is the initial position? Connor, if you want to wrap up.
Yeah, really excited to see these. Thank you guys for coming. Obviously, I think I recognize most of the people in here, but I appreciate your time, and to be respectful of your time. I know we went a little over. I'm going to wrap up. I did record this. I will send out a link to the recording. That way you guys can go back to it, reference things, and have discussions about it. Thank you for your time, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys.